Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever walked into a room where one person barely said a word, yet somehow everyone paid attention to them? They weren't the loudest. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They didn't interrupt, argue, or compete for attention. Yet when they finally spoke, the entire room fell silent. Their words carried weight because they understood something most people never do. We live in a world that celebrates noise. We are told to speak faster, talk louder, defend every opinion, and fill every moment of silence. But real influence doesn't come from saying more. It comes from knowing exactly when to speak, what to say, and when silence is the strongest message of all. The people who truly control conversations rarely look like they are in control. They observe before they react. They listen before they judge. While everyone else is revealing their emotions, intentions, and weaknesses, they are collecting information. They understand that every conversation is a game of awareness, and the person who notices the most usually leads the outcome. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, insecurity, or lack of confidence. In reality, controlled silence is one of the most powerful forms of confidence. It makes people curious. It encourages others to reveal more than they intended. It creates space for clear thinking instead of emotional reactions. Most importantly, it gives you control over yourself. And once you control yourself, it becomes much harder for anyone else to control you. Today's speech is not about becoming distant, cold, or manipulative. It's about mastering the quiet habits that command respect, strengthen your presence, and allow you to guide conversations without raising your voice. You'll discover why the calmest person is often the strongest in the room, how silence can become your greatest advantage, and how quiet confidence can influence people more effectively than endless words ever could. Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one who speaks the least. One of the greatest misconceptions about communication is that the person who talks the most has the most influence. In reality, people reveal far more when they believe no one is judging them or competing for the spotlight. Silence has a unique psychological effect. It creates space, and people naturally feel compelled to fill that space. They explain themselves, justify their decisions, share their emotions, and often expose information they never intended to reveal. This is why quiet people frequently understand more than everyone else in the room. They are not rushing to prove a point. They are gathering clues that others carelessly leave behind. Think about the last time someone asked you a question and then remained completely silent after your answer. That silence probably felt uncomfortable. You likely continued talking, adding details that were never requested. You may have explained your reasoning, revealed your doubts, or even contradicted yourself without realizing it. This is a natural human response. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, so they rush to escape it by speaking. Those who understand this principle never feel pressured to fill every quiet moment. They let silence do the work while they pay attention. Every conversation contains two streams of information. The first is what people choose to say. The second is what they accidentally reveal through their tone, hesitation, body language, facial expressions, and choice of words. When you are busy preparing your next response, you miss these signals. But when you slow down and truly observe, you begin to notice inconsistencies. Someone who claims to be confident may avoid eye contact. A person who says they are calm may speak unusually fast. Someone insisting they have nothing to hide may become defensive over simple questions. These details often tell a more accurate story than words alone. Many people believe influence comes from having the perfect argument. More often, influence comes from understanding the other person's motivations before they understand yours. When people speak freely, they reveal what they fear, what they value, what excites them, and what frustrates them. They expose their priorities without realizing it. A quiet observer notices these patterns. Instead of making assumptions, they allow people to uncover themselves naturally. Information gathered through observation is far more reliable than information forced through confrontation. Patience is a hidden advantage in every discussion. Most people react immediately because they fear appearing uncertain. They interrupt before hearing the complete idea. They defend themselves before understanding the accusation. They answer questions that were never fully asked. This constant need to respond quickly causes mistakes. A patient person listens until the other person has finished, pauses for a moment, and only then decides whether a response is even necessary. That brief pause communicates confidence because it shows emotional control rather than emotional urgency. Silence also changes the emotional atmosphere of a conversation. When one person becomes angry, the natural instinct is to match that intensity. Raising your voice against another raised voice creates conflict instead of clarity. Remaining calm forces the emotional energy to shift. The louder person often becomes aware of their own behavior when they receive no emotional resistance. Instead of escalating the situation, controlled silence encourages reflection. It becomes difficult to manipulate someone who refuses to react impulsively. Observation is not passive. It is an active skill that requires focus and discipline. Notice who interrupts others and who waits patiently. Notice who changes the subject when difficult questions appear. Notice who constantly seeks approval and who remains comfortable without it. Watch how people treat those who have nothing to offer them. Pay attention to whether their actions consistently match their promises. Character is revealed in repeated behavior, not polished speeches. The strongest communicators are rarely obsessed with being heard. They are obsessed with understanding. They recognize that every person leaves behind small psychological footprints during a conversation. Every unnecessary explanation, every nervous laugh, every defensive reaction, and every sudden change in tone provides valuable insight. While others chase attention by speaking constantly, the quiet observer gains something far more valuable: awareness. Once you truly understand people, you no longer need to overpower them because they have already shown you exactly who they are. Most people enter a conversation with one goal already fixed in their minds. They want to respond. Before the other person has even finished speaking, they are already preparing their next sentence, searching for the perfect comeback, or thinking about how to prove their point. This habit feels natural, but it quietly destroys genuine communication. The moment your mind shifts from listening to preparing a response, you stop noticing the details that truly matter. You hear words, but you miss meaning. You catch sentences, but you overlook emotions. Quiet, people understand that listening is not a passive activity. It is one of the most powerful forms of observation, every person wants to feel understood before they are willing to understand someone else. When people feel heard, their defenses begin to lower. They become less argumentative, more cooperative, and far more willing to reveal what is really on their minds. This is why exceptional communicators spend far more time asking thoughtful questions than delivering long speeches. They know that information is more valuable than assumptions. Every answer provides another piece of the puzzle, helping them understand not only what a person thinks, but why they think that way. Real listening requires discipline because the human mind loves to make quick judgments. Within seconds of hearing someone speak, we often label them as intelligent, arrogant, insecure, confident, honest, or dishonest. These instant conclusions create invisible barriers. Instead of discovering who the person truly is, we begin searching for evidence that confirms our first impression. Quiet people resist this temptation. They remain curious instead of certain. Curiosity keeps the mind open, and an open mind notices things that certainty often ignores. People rarely communicate their deepest thoughts directly. They speak through stories, examples, emotions, and repeated patterns. A single sentence may seem ordinary, but repeated over time, it reveals a belief system. Someone who constantly blames others may fear responsibility. Someone who repeatedly seeks validation may struggle with self-worth. Someone who frequently complains about betrayal may have unresolved trust issues. These insights are impossible to recognize if you are focused only on finding your next opportunity to speak. Listening allows hidden patterns to emerge naturally. Another powerful habit of quiet communicators is that they pay attention to what is left unsaid. Silence often carries as much meaning as words. A long pause before answering a simple question may signal uncertainty. A sudden change in tone can reveal discomfort. Avoiding certain topics may indicate emotional sensitivity. Even the choice of words can expose a person's mindset. Some people consistently use words that express confidence and responsibility, while others repeatedly speak like victims of circumstance. These subtle differences reveal how people see themselves and the world around them. Listening also protects you from emotional traps. Many arguments begin because people react to only part of what was said. They interrupt, misunderstand, and respond emotionally before hearing the complete message. A calm listener allows the speaker to finish completely. This creates clarity and prevents unnecessary conflict. It also gives you valuable time to think instead of reacting on impulse. Emotional control begins with patient listening because understanding always comes before effective action. There is also strength in making someone feel important without giving away your own position. When people are encouraged to speak freely, they often reveal their priorities, fears, ambitions, and expectations. They unknowingly explain what motivates them, what frustrates them, and where their emotional pressure points exist. You don't need to interrogate anyone to learn these things. You simply need to create an environment where they feel comfortable expressing themselves. Genuine attention is far more effective than aggressive questioning. Create confidence is built on the belief that you do not have to dominate every conversation to influence it. The person who listens carefully gathers knowledge while everyone else is competing for attention. Knowledge creates better decisions, stronger relationships, and greater credibility. When you finally choose to speak, your words are based on understanding instead of assumption. People naturally respect someone whose responses are thoughtful, measured, and relevant because they can sense that those words are supported by careful observation rather than emotional impulse. One of the most underrated skills in communication is knowing when not to speak. Most people believe that conversations should flow without interruption, that every question deserves an immediate answer, and that every silence must be filled as quickly as possible. But those who truly understand human psychology recognize that a well-timed pause is not a weakness. It is a form of control. A strategic pause changes the rhythm of a conversation. It slows emotions, sharpens attention, and forces people to become more aware of what is happening. Quiet people don't rush because they understand that speed often belongs to emotion, while patience belongs to confidence. Think about how powerful leaders, skilled negotiators, and respected communicators often behave. They rarely answer difficult questions the instant they are asked. Instead, they pause for a moment. They consider the intention behind the question, not just the words themselves. That brief silence sends an important message. It tells everyone in the room that this person refuses to be controlled by pressure. They respond because they choose to, not because they feel forced to. This simple habit creates an image of calm authority that words alone cannot achieve. Most people fear silence because they confuse it with uncertainty. They worry that if they don't answer immediately, they will appear unprepared or weak. Ironically, the opposite is often true. Speaking too quickly can reveal nervousness, impatience, or emotional reactivity. It increases the chances of saying something you later regret. A thoughtful pause demonstrates discipline. It shows that your emotions do not dictate your behavior. You are giving your mind permission to catch up before your mouth begins to speak. Strategic pauses are especially valuable during emotionally charged conversations. When someone criticizes you, insults you, or tries to provoke a reaction, the first few seconds are the most dangerous. This is when anger demands immediate action. Many people respond without thinking, allowing temporary emotions to create permanent consequences. Quiet people interrupt this cycle by refusing to react instantly. They take a breath, they observe the situation, they allow the emotional wave to pass before choosing their response. That short moment of silence often prevents arguments that could have lasted for years. Pauses also create psychological pressure. Imagine asking someone an important question and then remaining completely silent. Most people become uncomfortable within seconds. They begin talking simply to reduce the tension. They offer additional explanations, reveal more information, or attempt to justify themselves. This isn't manipulation, it's human nature. Silence encourages people to continue speaking, and the longer they speak, the more they reveal about their thoughts, intentions, and emotions. The person who remains calm gains information without asking another question. Another overlooked benefit of pausing is that it increases the value of your words. When someone speaks continuously, listeners begin predicting what will come next, and attention slowly fades. But when you pause before delivering an important point, people naturally focus. Their brains anticipate what comes next. Your message feels more deliberate and more significant because it wasn't delivered in a rush. The pause acts like a spotlight, directing attention exactly where you want it, strategic pauses also improve your ability to think clearly. Conversations move quickly and emotions can cloud judgment. A few seconds of silence allow you to organize your thoughts, separate facts from feelings, and choose language that reflects wisdom instead of impulse. Rather than speaking to release emotion, you begin speaking to create impact. This small difference transforms ordinary conversations into meaningful exchanges built on clarity rather than chaos. There is another reason quiet people use pauses so effectively. They understand that not every statement deserves a response. Some comments are designed only to provoke. Some questions are intended to trap you. Some criticisms are emotional reactions rather than genuine concerns. Responding immediately gives those moments more importance than they deserve. A calm pause allows you to decide whether the conversation is worth your energy. Sometimes the strongest answer is a thoughtful sentence. Sometimes it is a simple smile. Sometimes it is choosing not to respond at all. People often mistake constant talking for confidence, but genuine confidence is comfortable with silence. It does not fear empty moments because it knows that influence is not measured by the number of words spoken. Influence comes from timing, composure, and intention. Every pause demonstrates self-control. Every thoughtful response reflects emotional discipline. And every moment of silence reminds others that true power belongs to the person who controls themselves before attempting to influence anyone else. Before you can influence another person, you must first learn to influence yourself. This is the hidden principle behind every powerful conversation. Many people believe they lose arguments because they lack intelligence, confidence, or communication skills. In reality, they lose control long before they lose the conversation. The moment emotions begin making decisions instead of logic, the outcome is already changing. Anger, frustration, fear, insecurity, and the need to prove yourself become invisible forces that push you into saying things you never intended to say. Quiet people understand that emotional control is not about suppressing feelings. It is about refusing to let those feelings become the driver of your behavior. Every conversation is an emotional test. Some people will challenge your opinions. Others will question your abilities. Some may disrespect you, interrupt you, or deliberately try to provoke a reaction. These moments reveal far more about your emotional discipline than about the other person's character. Anyone can remain calm when everything is going well. Real strength appears when pressure rises and expectations change. The people who command respect are rarely those with the loudest voices. They are the ones who remain steady when everyone else is becoming emotional. One reason emotions become so difficult to manage is because they demand immediate action. Anger tells you to respond now. Fear tells you to defend yourself immediately. Pride tells you to prove that you are right. Ego whispers that silence means defeat. These emotional impulses feel urgent, but urgency is often the enemy of wisdom. Quiet communicators recognize this pattern. Instead of obeying the first emotion that appears, they allow it to pass before deciding what action truly serves the situation. Imagine someone criticizing you in front of others. Your first instinct might be to interrupt, explain yourself, or attack them in return. But what happens if you remain calm for just a few seconds? Your breathing slows. Your thoughts become clearer. You begin separating facts from emotions. You realize that not every accusation deserves a defense and not every insult deserves a reply. Those few moments of emotional control completely change the direction of the conversation. Instead of reacting from wounded pride, you respond from deliberate choice. People often underestimate how much their emotional state influences the quality of their words. When emotions take over, communication becomes less about understanding and more about winning. You stop listening. You interrupt. You exaggerate. You assume intentions that may not even exist. The conversation shifts from solving a problem to protecting your ego. Quiet people refuse to let this happen. Their focus remains on clarity instead of victory. They understand that proving someone wrong rarely changes their mind, but remaining composed often earns respect without saying very much. Emotional control also protects your credibility. People remember how you behave under pressure far more than they remember the exact words you use. Anyone can sound intelligent when life is easy, but when conflict appears, true character becomes visible. A calm voice during chaos communicates confidence. A measured response during criticism demonstrates maturity. The ability to stay respectful while disagreeing shows strength that cannot be faked. Others begin trusting your judgment because they see that your decisions are guided by reason instead of emotional impulses. Another important truth is that emotionally reactive people are easy to predict. If someone knows exactly what will make you angry, insecure, or defensive, they also know how to control your behavior. Every predictable emotional reaction becomes a button that others can press whenever they choose. The moment you lose control of your emotions, you begin giving control of the conversation to someone else. Quiet people remove those buttons. They refuse to become emotionally available to every opinion, insult, or criticism they encounter. This makes them difficult to manipulate because their responses are based on values rather than temporary feelings. Emotional discipline does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means creating enough space between what happens to you and how you respond. In that space lies wisdom. In that space lies self-respect. In that space lies the freedom to choose words that build trust instead of conflict. Calmness is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of self-control. Every time you choose patience over impulse, understanding over assumption, and purpose over pride, you strengthen the part of yourself that cannot be shaken by outside pressure. The quietest person often appears the strongest because they have already won the most important battle, the battle within their own mind. The most influential people are not remembered because they spoke the most. They are remembered because every time they spoke, people listened. In a world where everyone is competing to be heard, the person who chooses their words carefully immediately stands apart. Quiet people understand a simple truth that many overlook. Words lose their value when they are used without purpose. Just as a rare diamond is valued because it is scarce, meaningful words carry weight because they are spoken with intention, precision, and confidence. Many people believe that talking more makes them appear smarter, stronger, or more convincing. In reality, excessive talking often creates the opposite effect. The more you explain, the more opportunities you create for misunderstandings, contradictions, and unnecessary mistakes. People begin focusing on small details instead of your main message. They notice inconsistencies that would never have existed if you had spoken with greater clarity. Quiet communicators avoid this trap. They don't measure success by how long they speak. They measure it by how clearly their message is understood. Every conversation should have a purpose. Before speaking, ask yourself a simple question. Does this add value? If your words create clarity, solve a problem, inspire action, or strengthen understanding, then they deserve to be spoken. But if they exist only to impress people, seek approval, defend your ego, or fill an uncomfortable silence, they often weaken your presence. Quiet people are comfortable allowing silence to exist because they know that silence never damages credibility, while careless words often do. There is also tremendous power in simplicity. Some of history's most memorable statements were not long speeches. They were short, direct, and unforgettable because they communicated one powerful idea with complete confidence. People rarely remember every sentence you say, but they often remember one sentence that made them think differently. This is why disciplined communicators avoid unnecessary complexity. They understand that a clear message delivered with confidence is far more persuasive than a complicated explanation filled with endless details. Another important habit is resisting the urge to explain yourself to everyone. Many people feel compelled to justify every decision they make. They explain why they changed careers, why they ended a relationship, why they declined an invitation, or why they chose a different path. While honesty has its place, constant justification quietly communicates that you need permission for your choices. Quiet confidence understands that not every decision requires public approval. Sometimes a simple answer is enough. Sometimes no explanation is necessary at all. The more secure you become within yourself, the less you feel the need to convince others. Speaking less also makes your observations stronger. When you remain silent for most of a conversation, people naturally become more attentive when you finally contribute. They assume your words matter because you have not wasted them. Your opinions feel deliberate rather than impulsive. Your advice carries more credibility because it comes after careful listening instead of constant interruption. This is why respected leaders often speak with remarkable precision. They understand that every unnecessary sentence weakens the impact of the important ones. Another advantage of speaking with intention is that it prevents emotional mistakes. During moments of frustration, people often reveal secrets they should have protected, make promises they cannot keep, or use words they later wish they could take back. Once spoken, words cannot be retrieved. They continue living in the minds of others long after the conversation ends. Quiet people appreciate this reality. They recognize that self-control is measured not only by what you choose to say, but also by what you wisely choose to leave unsaid. The strongest communicators are not obsessed with sounding impressive. They are focused on being understood. They speak with confidence because they have already listened carefully. They answer thoughtfully because they have taken time to think. They avoid exaggeration because truth does not need decoration. Their words are calm, measured, and purposeful, allowing others to focus on the message instead of the emotion behind it. They know that influence is never created through endless talking, but through meaningful communication that reflects wisdom, discipline, and quiet confidence. When every word has a purpose, every conversation becomes an opportunity to earn respect without demanding attention, to create influence without seeking approval, and to leave a lasting impression without ever raising your voice.